Oh, dear friends, I'd like to say a number of words from a talk I gave this morning on parshat VaYeshev. And parshat VaYeshev and parshat Miketz always fall around Hanukkah time. I want to mention that at the beginning, and I'll continue. What is inherent to these parshiot are the dreams of Joseph. And Joseph is also called Safnat Paneach, the one who can interpret the mysteries. And the Bible seems to imply that Joseph has the ability of interpreting dreams. Now, there are three sets of dreams that we find in the Joseph story. Set number one is his own dreams, and each set, I call it a set because they come in pairs of two. Set number one is his own dream. And the first dream that Joseph has, you have, he sees the bundles of wheat, and all the bundles of his brothers are bowing down to his bundle. And this is an obvious dream because the Talmud says, Ein adam cholem ela mihirhure libo, that a person normally dreams things that they thought about during the day. So obviously Joseph is a young man, and he's thinking about his brothers out there supporting the family, and he's dreaming that one day he will be the support of the family, or he'll be the rich man. So that's their bundles bowing down to his bundle. And therefore he tells it to his brothers, sort of like, I told you so, it's going to happen. But then the second dream, where the sun, the moon, and the stars are bowing down to him, he does not understand. And he tells it to not only to his brothers, but to his father. And his father says to him, am I and your mother and your brothers going to bow down to you? Now, the interesting thing about this, of course, Rashi points out that Jacob was trying to say that how could this dream actually work? Because your mother's not alive anymore. She already died, as we read in last week's parsha. So how could the moon bow down to you if that's your mother? Of course, the interpreters say that it's actually referring to Bilhah, which was the servant of Rachel who actually brought up Joseph. But anyhow, and it says Aviv Shamarta Davar, that Jacob, meaning Joseph's father, remembered this. He started wondering, is this a real dream? Joseph felt it was a real dream, and that's why he tells it to his father, and he wonders what it means. So really, it's Yaakov who's interpreting this dream and telling Joseph what he thinks the dream means. And Joseph, for this dream is going to follow Joseph all the way to Yigash, where it'll say that he remembered the dreams. So this is the first set of dreams. Now, the second set of dreams is also very interesting, and that's in this week's parsha. The dreams of Sar HaMashkim v'Sar HaOfim, which are the two servants of Pharaoh, the one who brings him his wine and his drinks, and the one who serves him the bread, meaning the one who is the baker. So you have the baker and the winemaker, or the wine taster, or the wine server. And Rashi has a very unusual approach to these two dreams, because these would be the first dreams where Joseph is actually the interpreter. And he says to them right away, this is what it means. Because it says about those dreams, ish kefitron chalamo chalam, which means ish kefitron chavero chalam. In other words, it says that ish kefitron chalamo chalam. So the way it's interpreted by the Parshanim, by Rashi. So again, in chapter 41:11, it says ish kefitron chalamo chalamnu, which literally means each one of us, remember this is the servant who gives the wine, each one of us dreamt a dream with its kepitron, which means the meaning of the dream, and with the meaning of the dream. Now, Rashi points out, if it was the meaning of their dream, they wouldn't have asked Joseph. So it must have been the meaning of another dream. So the way Rashi interprets it is that each one of them, meaning the servant who gives the wine and the baker, they dream their dream with the interpretation of the other guy's dream without realizing. but they realized there was some interpretation involved there. Joseph, listening to both dreams, understood that the first guy dreamt the meaning of the second guy's dream, and the second guy dreamt the meaning of the first guy's dream. Meaning the baker dreamt the meaning of the butler who gives the wine, and the butler who gives the wine dreamt the meaning of the dream of the baker without realizing it. But only Joseph, who heard both of the dreams, understood that. And therefore Joseph right away says to the butler, well, this is the meaning of the dream. And he sees it was a good one. In 3 days, Paro is going to reinstall you. Great. And then the baker says, so what is mine? Joseph says, this is what it means. In 3 days, Paro is going to kill you. He's going to behead you. Yeah. Meaning going to tell you, to hang you, it says. So the interesting thing here is that according to Rashi, it does not yet appear that Joseph actually knows how to interpret a dream, because he's just putting one and one together. I'm not saying Joseph is not intuitive, but it's not clear, at least from Rashi's point of view, whether at this point Joseph knows how to interpret a dream. Now let's look at the third part. The third part is next week's parsha, which is Paro's dream in Miketz. Paro has this dream, and in Pharaoh's dream, there are first, if you look directly at the dream. Now, in Pharaoh's dream, it also comes in twos. And Joseph, of course, is brought by the butler to the wine giver to interpret Pharaoh's dream. And he does. Now, what is Pharaoh's dream? Let's just assume for a moment that according to Rashi, Joseph is not somebody who normally is an interpreter of dreams. How would Joseph have understood Pharaoh's dream? Let's just analyze it for a moment. What is Pharaoh's dream? It also comes in two parts. And Joseph has already seen that dreams seem to come in pairs. His own dream, the butler and the baker's dream, and now Pharaoh's dream comes in pairs. And what is the pair? The first one is these 6 fat cows and 6 skinny cows coming out of the Nile, and the 6 skinny cows devour the fat cows. Joseph wonders, what does that mean? And then the second dream is that you have stalks of wheat. You have the plentiful stalks and the stalks which are been hit by the wind and half destroyed. And the ones that are half destroyed eat up the plentiful stalks, the healthy-looking stalks of wheat. And what does this mean? Well, for Joseph, he can right away relate this to his own dreams. Number one, I'm sure that Joseph felt that the fact that there's a second dream, the butler and the baker, that brought him out of jail, there's obviously this is some sign. And now he's coming out of jail for Pharaoh's dream. And this reminds him of his own dreams. Now he remembers that in his own dreams, if all dreams come in twos, so even the dream that he thought was insignificant, about him dreaming about the sheaves of wheat and his brothers' sheaves bowing down to him, the fact that he thought it was insignificant, it became significant because of his second dream, which he did not understand, which his father took seriously. So now he's wondering, maybe my first dream also meant something. Now his first dream, he knows 100% what it meant. It was talking about prosperity and gaining a livelihood and being the one to support the family. So the sheaves of wheat represent prosperity and being able to feed your family. So right away, he looks at Pharaoh's dream and he sees the same sheaves and he realizes it relates to his first dream. So it has to do with prosperity and feeding your family. Now, if you have sheaves which are all beat up, eating up the healthy ones, that's not a good sign because that means that prosperity is going to disappear. And then he wonders, what's the cows? He says, well, my father Jacob told me about my second dream, which I did not understand, that the stars and the moon and the sun bowing down to me had to do with the people near me. So since my father definitely was somebody with divine spirit and knew what he was talking about, maybe that's what Pharaoh's dream is. the cows, Pharaoh is the big cow, and all the other cows are the ones who are near him, who are the VIPs in the palace. So what are the skinny cows? The skinny cows, the ones who don't have, are everybody else, the people. What does it mean that the skinny cows devour the fat cows? The people will want to overthrow Paro and his VIPs and his aristocracy. Why? Because there won't be any wheat. So Joseph all of a sudden is able to put together his own dream and Pharaoh's dream and interconnect them. And all of a sudden, the answer seems obvious. Now, I'm not saying that maybe it was not divine help. It appears that there was. But I'm just saying that from Rashi's point of view, who seems to minimalize Joseph's ability to interpret dreams, he would be able also to come to some type of understanding through his own dream that he dreamt at the beginning and tie it into Pharaoh's dream. And also he would understand from the butler and the baker that dreams are interconnected. And he would also understand that they come in pairs and the pairs are related to each other. I wanted to point that out. Why is Joseph the one who dreams dreams? Why are all of a sudden dreams have to do with Joseph? Jacob also had a dream, but it's prophetic. Joseph is dealing with three types of dreams, which are real, but they're not officially prophetic. They're sort of prophetic, which means they do predict things in the future, but it's not God talking to somebody in prophecy. It's dreams which are predicting things. Remember, Joseph is the first generation to live in the galut, in the exile. In the exile, there's no prophecy. Prophecy is taken away after Jacob, and it disappears until the time of Moses, till Moshe. So that's a good 200 years, maybe even more. 210 years of slavery, and this is even before the slavery. It's a very long time. Might be 250, 300 years. And so you have the dream instead of prophecy. Now Joseph has a prophetic side to him. Let's call it Ruach HaKodesh. He gets divine inspiration, but he does not get prophecy. That's why Joseph is at the end of his life says, Pakod yifkod Elohim etchem. God will remember you. And when he does, take my bones out of this country when you go back. Because he feels that that's what's going to happen. And that is the code that Moses says when he goes down to the elders of Israel to tell them that God remembered you. He says, Pakod pakadeti etchem. The God of Israel says, I remembered you. And Moses is the one who, when they leave Egypt, takes the bones of Joseph out of Egypt with him and buries them in Shechem. Now, I once pointed out that the word chalom in Hebrew, if you interchange the letters, which of course, because there are three letters, it gives you six possibilities. So, but in these words, the words that make sense out of these six combinations relate to things in the life of Joseph, which is very interesting. You have the word chalom, of course, the dream itself, het lamed mem. And then if you play around with the letters and interchange them, chalom could be chamal, right? Chalom and chamal, chemla, which means to take pity on somebody, have compassion on somebody. And the brothers did not have compassion over Joseph. They sat down, their bread, and Joseph is being sold by the Ishmaelites. And then the next word would start, of course, with a lamed. You would have lamed, mem, chet. So lemach doesn't mean anything, but lechem does, which is bread. And if you remember, it says about that Potiphar gave everything to Joseph except for the bread that he ate. And the commentaries, the Midrash and Rashi say the bread that he ate, meaning his wife, meaning that was out of bounds. That's the lechem. And also, of course, Joseph is the one who gives bread, who gives wheat to all of Egypt, including his brothers. Let's look at the next one. You had before chalom, lechem, and the next one will start with the mem. So you have machal, and machal means, of course, to forgive. And Joseph forgives his brothers for what they do. When they're afraid that after the death of his father, he's going to take revenge, Joseph says, it was not you who brought me here, it was God's idea for me to be in Egypt. So that's machal. And then there's, of course, melach. Melach, which means salt, which is also in the word chalom, which is also an interesting combination. With melach, I just want to say that, of course, it goes to bread, with bread in our tradition, and melach represents the covenant. And Joseph is the one, of course, who helps the brothers keep the covenant, Brit melach. I also want to point out that from lechem is also the word lacham, which means to fight, to struggle. Joseph struggled during his life in order to reach the levels that he did. And now I want to tie it into the last thing, the Chanukah period, which comes at the times of the Joseph story. What is the connection there? Joseph is the dreamer. He's also the first one in exile. Now we have two rabbinic holidays, and both of them represented two different aspects of exile. The first one, where the Jews are actually in exile. In the Purim story, we're in Babylonia. And then we're able to overcome the anti-Semitism of Haman, and the Jews reach a certain level of being able to live in rights in the Persian Empire. So this is a smaller salvation, Yeshua, of Purim. We don't say Hallel because we're still under the occupation, if you or the sovereignty of Achashverosh, but there's a modus vivendi. There's a way to live this way in the diaspora. That's the Purim story. And there you can dream of having Jews living in freedom, even if they're not in their own land. The second stage is called Chanukah, where we are in our own land, but we're under foreign occupation, like the Hellenistic Seleucid Empire. So you're at their mercy. Sometimes they allow you your freedom, sometimes they don't. And the Chanukah story is to dream to get your freedom back. And that's what happened in Chanukah. We had dreamers, the Hasmoneans, and they were able to bring the freedom back and gain, as Maimonides says, and gain a monarchy, a Jewish government for 200 years. These are dreams of the diaspora. And in the modern state of Israel today, we were able to dream too and bring ourselves back, just like the Hasmoneans, to be again Jewish sovereignty in the state of Israel. Shalom, shalom.